Before the late 1960s, the world of money moved at a very different pace. Imagine needing cash for the weekend. Your journey wouldn't be to a machine in a wall, but to a physical bank building. These buildings were often grand, with marble floors and stern-faced tellers behind brass grills. But they operated on a strict schedule, a rhythm dictated by the traditional working day. Banks would typically open their doors around 9 in the morning and close them firmly at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. This meant that if you worked a standard job, getting to the bank required a special trip during your lunch break, a race against the clock. This limited access created a universal experience, the queue. People would stand in long, snaking lines, waiting patiently for their turn to speak to a teller. You would present your withdrawal slip, a small piece of paper filled out with your account details and the amount you wish to withdraw. The teller would then check your identity, verify your signature, and physically count out the banknotes for you. This process, while secure, was incredibly time-consuming. An emergency need for cash on a Saturday evening or a Sunday morning was simply out of the question. The bank's vault was locked, and your money was, for all practical purposes, unavailable until Monday morning. This system presented significant challenges as societies grew and economies quickened. If you were traveling, you had to plan meticulously, carrying large amounts of cash or relying on travelers' checks, which were not universally accepted. The simple act of paying for goods and services was constrained by the cash you had in your pocket, and replenishing it was an errand that needed to be scheduled into your week. For the banks themselves, this model was also inefficient. It meant employing a large number of staff just to handle basic cash transactions, creating a bottleneck that slowed down the entire operation and limited their ability to serve more customers. The world was changing. Cities were expanding. People were more mobile, and commerce was becoming a 24/7 affair. Yet, access to personal funds was stuck in a 9 to 3, Monday to Friday paradigm. There was a growing unspoken need for a new way of doing things. People needed a way to access their own money on their own terms, free from the constraints of the bank's opening hours. A fundamental disconnect was emerging between the speed of modern life and the slow, deliberate pace of traditional banking. The stage was set for an invention that would change our relationship with money forever. The idea of a machine that could automatically dispense money wasn't born in a single moment of genius. Instead, it simmered in the minds of several inventors across the globe, each tackling the same fundamental problem. As early as 1939, an inventor named Luther George Simjian had patented a device he called the Biography. His machine could accept cash or check deposits from customers at any time of day or night. It was a remarkable piece of engineering for its time, but it failed to capture the public's imagination. Perhaps the world simply wasn't ready, or perhaps its inability to dispense cash was its fatal flaw. The machine was seen as a novelty, and after a brief trial, it quietly disappeared. The concept lay dormant for decades, but the problem it sought to solve only grew more urgent. The post-war economic boom saw a surge in the number of people with bank accounts. This was a wonderful sign of prosperity, but it placed an immense strain on the existing banking infrastructure. The queues grew longer, and the tellers grew busier. Banks needed a way to automate the most common and repetitive transaction, the simple cash withdrawal. The dream was to create a robot teller that could serve customers quickly, efficiently, and, most importantly, outside of normal banking hours, freeing up human staff for more complex financial matters. The technological challenge was enormous. How could a machine securely identify a customer? How could it be trusted to dispense the correct amount of money without error? And how could it communicate with the bank's central records to debit the customer's account? The answer began to emerge from the world of computing and data storage. The development of magnetic stripes, which could hold small amounts of machine-readable data, was a critical piece of the puzzle. This technology opened up the possibility of creating a unique, secure key for each customer, the bank card, that a machine could read and verify. This period was a fascinating confluence of need and innovation. On one hand, you had the social and economic pressure for more flexible banking. On the other, you had the quiet, steady march of technological progress in fields like computing, mechanics, and data security. Several inventors were working on prototypes in the mid-1960s, each with their own unique approach. In Japan, a device was developed in 1966 that accepted a credit card and dispensed cash, but it was not connected to a network and served a limited purpose. The race was on to create the first truly practical, publicly accessible cash machine. The breakthrough moment the world was waiting for arrived on a summer's day in 1967. On June 27th, outside a branch of Barclays Bank in Enfield, North London, a crowd gathered to witness the unveiling of something extraordinary. It was the world's first publicly available automated teller machine, or ATM. This machine, a chunky metallic box set into the bank's exterior wall, was the brainchild of a Scottish inventor named John Shepherd Barron. The story of its invention has become legendary, a perfect example of how a simple, everyday problem can spark a world-changing idea. Shepherd Barron was lying in his bath one day, frustrated that he had missed the bank and couldn't get any cash for the weekend. He pondered the problem, and his mind drifted to another kind of vending machine, one that dispensed chocolate bars. If a machine could reliably dispense a chocolate bar when you put a coin in, why couldn't a more sophisticated machine dispense cash when you put a special token in? This simple analogy was the key. He pitched his idea to the head of Barclays Bank, who, in a moment of remarkable foresight, immediately saw the potential. The project was commissioned, and Shepherd Barron's company, De La Rue Instruments, was tasked with building the machine that would revolutionize banking. It was a moment where a simple thought transformed into a tangible, world-altering piece of technology. The first ATM didn't use the plastic, magnetic stripe cards we know today. Instead, it used special paper checks that were lightly impregnated with a radioactive substance, carbon-14. The customer would insert their check into the machine, which could read the radioactive signature. They would then enter a 4-digit personal identification number, or PIN. This PIN was another of Shepherd Barron's key innovations, designed to link the user to the token. He originally conceived of a 6-digit number, but his wife convinced him that 4 digits were much easier for the average person to remember, a design choice that has remained the global standard to this day. If the PIN matched the check, the machine would dispense a single, crisp £10 note, a considerable sum of money at the time. The machine couldn't connect to the bank's main computer system in real time. Instead, the transaction was recorded, and the used checks were collected and processed manually by the bank the next day. It was a relatively simple mechanism by today's standards, but it was revolutionary. For the first time in history, a person could get cash from their bank account without speaking to a human teller, and crucially, at any time of the day or night. The era of self-service banking had officially begun. While John Shepherd Barron's machine was making headlines in London, a parallel story of innovation was unfolding across the Atlantic in the United States. An engineer from Dallas, Texas, named Donald Wetzel, was also grappling with the inefficiencies of banking. The light bulb moment for him came, much like it did for Shepherd Barron while he was stuck in a long queue. Standing in line at his local bank, waiting to cash a check, he thought there had to be a better way. As the head of a department at an automated baggage handling company, Docutel, Wetzel was well versed in mechanics, automation, and logistics. He began to sketch out his vision for a 24-hour self-service banking machine. Working with a team of engineers, Wetzel developed a prototype for what he called the Docuteller. His approach was slightly different from the one in London. Crucially, his team focused on developing a machine that used a plastic card with a magnetic stripe to store the customer's account information. This was a monumental step forward. The magnetic stripe could hold more data than the radioactive tokens used in the UK, and the plastic cards were far more durable and cheaper to produce. It was this magnetic stripe card that would become the global standard, laying the groundwork for the interconnected ATM network we know today. The first permanent, fully operational American ATM was installed in 1969 at a chemical bank branch in Rockville Centre, New York. Its public debut was marked by a bold advertising campaign with the slogan, "Our bank will open at 9 o'clock in the morning and never close again." This powerful message perfectly captured the machine's revolutionary promise. It wasn't just a convenience, it was a fundamental change in the relationship between the bank and its customers. The bank was no longer a place you had to visit during set hours. It was a service you could access whenever you needed it. Initially, adoption was slow. The machines were expensive for banks to purchase and install, and the public was understandably hesitant to trust a machine with their money. Early ATMs were often standalone units, not connected to a central banking network, meaning you could only use the machine at your specific bank branch. Despite these early hurdles, the potential was undeniable. A few pioneering banks saw the competitive advantage that ATMs offered, and as more machines appeared, public confidence grew. The American journey of the ATM had begun, driven by a vision of ultimate convenience and powered by the humble plastic card. The 1970s and 1980s were a period of explosive growth and transformation for the ATM. The initial concept of a standalone cash dispenser had proven successful, but its true power was yet to be unlocked. The next great leap was to move from isolated machines to interconnected networks. In the early days, an ATM could only talk to the records of its own branch. If you were a customer of the downtown branch, you couldn't use the ATM at the suburban branch, let alone one from a completely different bank. This severely limited the machine's utility, especially for people who traveled even short distances for work or leisure. The breakthrough came with the development of shared networks. The first of these, called Cirrus, was established in 1982. This was a cooperative venture between several major banks that allowed their ATMs to communicate with each other. For the first time, a customer from one bank could use an ATM belonging to another member bank to withdraw cash. This was a paradigm shift. Suddenly, the number of accessible cash points for a customer multiplied exponentially. The ATM was no longer just a feature of your local branch, it was becoming a utility, like a telephone or a post box, available in more and more locations. This networking required incredible advancements in computing and telecommunications. Banks had to build robust, secure data centers that could process millions of transactions in real time. Every time a card was inserted and a PIN was entered, a complex series of electronic handshakes would occur. The ATM would send a secure message through the network to the customer's home bank, requesting verification of the card and PIN, checking the account balance, and asking for authorization to dispense the cash. This entire conversation had to happen securely and in just a few seconds, a feat of engineering that was invisible to the user but essential to the system's success. The impact of these networks was profound. They created a powerful incentive for more banks to install ATMs and join the shared systems, a classic example of the network effect. The more banks that joined, the more useful the network became for everyone. This led to a rapid proliferation of ATMs, which began appearing not just at banks, but in supermarkets, shopping malls, airports, and train stations. The convenience factor skyrocketed. The reassuring glow of an ATM screen became a familiar sight in cities and towns around the world, a symbol of instant access to your funds wherever you happen to be. As ATM technology matured through the 1990s and into the 2000s, the machines evolved from simple cash dispensers into sophisticated, multifunctional financial hubs. The initial purpose was to reduce queues inside the bank, but developers soon realized that the ATM terminal could handle many other routine banking tasks. The ability to check your account balance on the screen was one of the first and most popular additions. This simple feature empowered customers, giving them instant information about their financial status without needing to wait for a paper statement or speak to a teller. It was a small step that deepened the user's sense of control over their money. Soon, a host of new functions were added. The ability to deposit cash and checks directly into the machine was a major innovation. Early deposit systems simply involved putting your money in an envelope and dropping it into a slot, but later machines incorporated advanced scanning technology. These intelligent deposit ATMs could read the amounts on checks, scan banknotes to verify their authenticity, and credit the funds to your account in real time. This two-way functionality transformed the ATM from a cash-out point to a genuine self-service banking terminal, further reducing the need for routine visits inside a branch. The user interface also underwent a dramatic revolution. The clunky mechanical buttons of the first-generation machines were replaced by bright, intuitive touchscreen menus. This made the machines far more user-friendly and accessible, especially as the number of functions grew. Banks could now use the ATM screen to offer additional services, such as transferring money between accounts, paying utility bills, or even purchasing mobile phone top-ups and postage stamps. The ATM became a platform, a digital touchpoint where banks could interact with their customers and offer a wider range of products and services, 24 hours a day. This expansion of services was particularly transformative in developing countries and rural areas. In many parts of the world, building a full-service bank branch is prohibitively expensive. A secure, multifunction ATM, however, can be installed at a fraction of the cost, providing a vital link to the formal financial system for underserved communities. For millions of people, the ATM was their first and primary point of contact with a bank. It became a powerful tool for financial inclusion, enabling people to receive wages, access credit, and manage their money safely, often for the very first time in their lives. We now live in a world of digital payments, online banking, and mobile wallets. It might seem that the physical cash machine, an invention from the 1960s, is destined for obsolescence. However, the ATM has shown a remarkable ability to adapt and reinvent itself, integrating the latest technologies to remain relevant. One of the most significant recent advancements has been the move towards contactless and cardless transactions. Many modern ATMs are now equipped with near-field communication, or NFC readers. This allows you to simply tap your contactless bank card, or even your smartphone, on the machine to initiate a transaction, making the process faster and more secure. The next frontier in ATM technology is biometrics. Instead of a card and a PIN, something you have and something you know, biometric ATMs use something you are. This could be your fingerprint, the unique pattern of veins in your palm, or even a facial scan. These technologies offer a level of security that is almost impossible to replicate, eliminating the risk of card skimming and stolen PINs. In countries like Japan and India, biometric ATMs are already being deployed, providing secure and convenient access to cash for millions of people. This technology holds the promise of making banking even more personal and fraud-proof. Even as the use of physical cash declines in some economies, the ATM is finding new roles. They are becoming recycling points for cash, where businesses can deposit their daily takings, which can then be dispensed to other customers. Some are being integrated with video conferencing technology, allowing customers to speak with a remote bank teller for more complex transactions. There is even exploration into how ATMs could interact with blockchain and cryptocurrencies, potentially serving as a physical on-ramp and off-ramp for the world of digital assets. The ATM is transforming from a cash machine into a versatile financial services kiosk. The ATM's enduring legacy is its role as a bridge between the digital and physical worlds. While we can manage much of our financial lives online, there are still times when we need physical cash. The ATM provides that vital link, a reliable and ubiquitous point of access. It represents a fundamental promise of modern banking that your money is your own, and you should be able to access it whenever and wherever you need it. From its humble chocolate-inspired beginnings to its future, with biometrics and blockchain, The ATM remains a testament to innovation and a cornerstone of our global financial system. It is, and will continue to be, far more than just a hole in the wall.